Is that Gorny tie there in the dark? Goragraganya gana gocha goloduharam Goranga gudutama gopyara kopa briksham Gopala gadadratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami. Taking medicine at the same time. Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dileka Kola Kahi Premananda Himana Goranga Hridaya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Sehayamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumata Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kriyat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Harishe Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatapta Bhajabala Vapahimam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Saura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we can recite this verse together from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Narottam Prabhu-ashtakam. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Vaishivaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Varaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Tasmai Namo Nama Shri Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. Goragraganya gana gocha goloduharam Goranga gudatama gopyada kolpa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha gora govinda deshi kavaram satatam numani. So we're on text 21, near as I can figure anyway. Let's share this on the screen. This is the last verse in this particular section. There's a number of different ways these verses are given. In Jagannath Puri, we have a very big book of all the songs and writings of Narottam Das Thakur. And it's a critical edition, meaning that it examines different ways that is given in different publications, and it'll say, oh, in this publication it gives this word. It says Vraja Janira Rita, and another one it says Mata instead of Rita, and it'll tell you which edition each one is from. So we're mostly going from Ishwar Prabhu's version. And his version, this is the end of chapter 2. So the verse describes, Sada Seva Abhilas Mani Kori Vishayas Sarvakaya Hoya Nirbhaya Narottama Dasa Bole Padina Asat Bole Paritrana Koro Mahashoy. He says that Sada Seva Abhilas, we should always have the desire to render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. This is our topmost goal. We should have Vishwas, strong faith in that. Sabakaya Haya Nirbhaya. And if we have that faith, that this is why I'm here, this is what we're here to do. We're here to render service. We're not here to be Genghis Khan or some person who's going to conquer the world and be the next Acharya or this or that. We're just here to be humble servants. And if we always have that attitude and have the attitude that Krishna's in control of everything, then Sarvakaya Hoya Nirbhaya, there's no fear whatsoever. Narottama Dasa Boli Padinoi Ashat Boli. But Narottam Das Thakur, he's praying that I'm not like that. Indirectly is what he's saying. I have so many problems. I've fallen down. So, my dear Lord, Paritrana Koro Mahashoy, that you please deliver me. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as we've commented sometimes before, Vishwanath's given a Sanskrit commentary on the Bengali Prema-bhakti-candrika that may not mean a lot to most of you. They're just two different languages. But Sanskrit is a Paka language of our Goswamis and our Sampradaya. And Bengali is something, it's more of a colloquial, local kind of language in which sometimes our acharyas, their followers have written things to be able to share things with common people. So Prema-bhakti-candrika is very special because it's there for common people, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur considered to be so high class that he wrote a Sanskrit commentary on it. And he comments here, the word Vishayas means Vishvas or faith, keeping firm faith in the above statements. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by all means and live fearlessly with the residents of Braj while constantly desiring the service of Sri Krishna. The word Mahashoy means, oh, Sri Krishna. So in the previous verse, Narottam Das Thakur was explaining that we should want to live in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan means rendering service. And so we spoke something about that. We'd like to continue with our discussion in this session today. I'm just looking to see who else here right now. Pranahari Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Nice to see you. So I wanted to share a little something with you. It's really nice, I think, to go through our Gaudiya literatures and have some familiarity with them. So there's some verses I was looking at recently in a book good chance none of you are familiar with. It's the Krishna Bhakti Rasa Kadamba. It was written by one of the associates of Lord Nityananda. A very interesting book. It's kind of like the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, only this book is written from the point of view of Sakya Ras. And it's also interesting, according to Fakir Mohan Prabhu and different scholars that I've heard from, they're not actively pursuing Sakya Ras, even in that particular line, although they have a Sakya Ras parampara they speak about Manjari Bhav, and they're interested in that thing. Anyway, he speaks about the importance of service here. Let's show this verse. It's 3 verses. Hena mukti sukha vancha na kori bhakta gana. Seva kabhava yate nahi ran. That for the devotees of the Lord, Hena mukti sukha vancha na kori bhakta gana. The devotees don't want any kind of mukti where there's no seva going on. Seva kabhave jata nahi ran. This is, they simply want to understand their position as being a servant, and they're always serving. So this is a very, very beautiful thing. It's a very high thing for most people in this world. But Narottam Das Thakur is informing us this is what's so important. And if we have this attitude that we're always a servant, and we have strong visvas to this, then there won't be any question of any fear. And if we have that kind of visvas, then we'll always be able to associate with the residents of Vrindavan. Because service is not done simply on the bodily platform, but service is done on the platform of the heart. So if we want to come close to the residents of Vrindavan, it doesn't just mean that we buy a ticket to Vrindavan and we go and we stay in the Krishna Balaram guest house or MVT or whatever, and we spend physical time there. But it means we should be hearing and chanting about Krishna while we're there. And those topics should be going deep into our heart. So he goes on to explain, Mukti hoila seva shuka napaya tahiti. Within liberation, within mukti, there's no seva sukha, there's no happiness of service. Seva sukta bhakti phala satata bhakati. The devotees, on the other hand, even without any separate endeavor, they're always enjoying seva sukha, because that's the natural phala or fruit of bhakti, satata bhakti. It's just always there for them. They're always experiencing that great, great happiness. Bhakti mukti ebheda parani lakshana. Bhaktagana sevananda kori prarthana. So he says there's different beta. Beta means different symptoms given in different Puranas and things, different lakshanas, explanations of what is bhakti, what is mukti. But the devotees, Bhakta Gana Sevananda Koriye Prarthana, what they're always desiring is service. Jayananda Prabhu, someone once asked him that he was considered to be the most advanced devotee in ISKCON. Someone asked him, Prabhu, how did you become so advanced? And Jayananda is like the personification of simplicity and humility. He said, I don't know. I'm too busy serving to think about that. Which is the answer to the question. He's so busy serving Srila Prabhupada that he doesn't have time to think about how to become advanced. Sometimes we're worried about our advancement or our liberation or this or that. But for the devotees, we just serve, and we serve, and we serve, and we serve, and we serve here, and then we'll serve in the spiritual world. Right? And we render service like that. Narottam Das Thakur, he assures us, the sarva kaya hoya nirbhaya, that you'll always be free from fear if we serve like that. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila, chapter 20, there's a nice verse. It says a similar point. Krishna madhurya sevananda praptir karana. Krishna seva kore ar Krishna rasa aswadana. So when someone experiences the sevananda, which was being described by Nayananda Thakur, this associate of Lord Nityananda, Krishna madhurya sevananda, that when you enjoy this sevananda, then you're also experiencing Krishna madhurya praptir karana. Krishna seva kora ar Krishna rasa aswadana. And then naturally you relish rasa. But for those persons who are thinking about their career, who are thinking about doing some mechanical kind of service, they're thinking about doing service where they'll get some recognition, they're not getting this rasa aswadana. They're not able to taste this Krishna rasa. Again, in the 4th chapter of Adi Lila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, he uses the word again, Sevananda. Nije Prema-nande Krishna Sevananda Bhadi. Sayananda Prati Bhaktir Hoya Mahakrode. That this Sevananda is even greater than Premananda. And we spoke a little bit about this, and I think in our previous session. It's a Sayananda Prati Bhaktir Hoya Mahakrode. When the devotees experience Sevananda, but there's some Premananda that arises, but the Premananda interferes with the Seva, then the devotees, they become angry and they don't tolerate that Premananda. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gives some examples, some of which we mentioned before, that Daruka is mentioned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that he was fanning Krishna and he became so ecstatic that the limbs of his body became stunned. And then Daruka became annoyed. So what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Bhakta Hoy Mahakrode, he becomes not just krode, not just angry, but Mahakrode, becomes very angry and toward that ecstasy. And he started praying to the Lord, please make this ecstasy go away. This is very bad, this nonsense ecstasy. It's interfering with my service for you. Srimati Radharani is described by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, that once out of separation from Krishna, she was laying in a bed with a high fever. And the gopis were bringing lotus flowers, which are very cooling, and putting them down in the bed. And they were putting sandalwood paste. Sandalwood paste is very cooling. We had an Ayurvedic doctor who instructed us during the summer we should take little balls of sandalwood paste every day. It keeps the body very cool. So she was laying on that, and the gopis were fanning her. But her body heat was so intense that immediately the sandalwood paste would dry up and practically the bed would catch on fire. But at one point, a message came, oh, Krishna wants you to cook for him. And then Srimati Radharani jumped up and she ran to the hot stove, which in Vrindavan means a stove which is using firewood, very, very hot. To this day, in most places in Vrindavan, in many places I've seen in Orissa, they have outside stoves for the summertime. Srimati Radharani started cooking, and amazingly, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that the heat of the stove felt cool to her, whereas the sandalwood paste and lotus flowers felt hot. So this is the nature of Srimati Radharani's service attitude. She services everything for Radharani. And if we want to come close to our Radharani, then we also have to begin to accept this desire for service. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami again, in Adi Lila chapter 4, he says, Adasuda Bhakta Krishna Prema Seva Bine, so Sukarta Sakyaladi Nakori Grahane. The devotees, the nature of the devotees is that they will never give up Krishna's service for anything. Swasukarta, not for their own personal pleasure, even Salokyadi Nakori Grahane. Someone comes and says, hey, would you like to have Sarupya Mukti? You'd like to have a form like the Lord? Would you like to be on the same planet with the Lord? No. They're not interested in any of those things. Simply, they just want to serve Krishna, and that's all. So for a devotee, that service to Krishna, that's everything. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Saranagati, he sings a song my Guru Maharaj liked very much. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoya jata seyota parama sukha. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoya jata. When rendering service to you, he says, sometimes my Lord, or the prayer can also be to Gurudev, that some dukkha, some unhappiness comes. But seyota parama sukha, that problems, that misery that I experience in service is a source of my greatest happiness. Seva sukha dukkha parama sampada nasaye avidya dukkha. He says that seva sukha dukkha parama sampada. In service, the happiness that we get from service, or the problems that we get from service, parama sampada, they're great riches. And they're both the same. Sometimes we're having happiness, sometimes we're having misery, but all that we really care about is that we have service. But this type of misery, when we're rendering service, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, nasaya vidya dukkha. It drives away, it destroys, nasaya, the misery of ignorance. It's our everything. So there's another nice verse that I came across recently. Maybe I'll put this on the screen. It's such a far out verse. Actually, Niranjan Maharaj liked this very much, and he asked me to send it to him. I'm just remembering, Krishna Kun, I got to do that. It's been so crazy. I don't know where this verse is from. I don't remember where I found it even. But it's very, very sweet. The poetry is very nice. It has a very deep mood. Vipadonaiva vipada. Vipada means problems, adversities. Vipada shantita sasvat tata tata jigod guru. Famously, Kunti Devi in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, she prays, give me problems, because when I have problems, then I remember you. So vipado naiva vipada. Problems are not problems. Adversities are not adversities. Sampada, sampado naiva sampada. Wealth is not really wealth. Vipad vismaranam Vishnu. The only sampanarayana smita, the only vipad is if we forget Krishna, we forget Vishnu. And the only good fortune, the only wealth is to remember him constantly. And that remembrance comes very strongly when we render service. We render service for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. As we often comment, we don't know Krishna, but we know Gurudev. And Gurudev is considered to be Sevaka Bhagavan. Krishna's Savior Bhagavan. He's a personality who's meant to be served. And the personification of service to Krishna is Sevaka Bhagavan, Gurudev. So he's a personality who collects that service. In the Bhagavatam 286, it is a beautiful description by Parikshit Maharaj. He says, Dotatma Purusha Krishna Pade Mulam Namuchati. That someone whose consciousness has been washed clean, their Atma, Dotatma Purusha Krishna Pada Mulam Namuchati. Such a person will never give up Krishna's lotus feet. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's given a very beautiful commentary. He says, Pada Seva Tyaga Samartya Eva Shuddha Chittatva Chinam. That what is the symptom of a pure heart? The symptom of a pure heart, we may say, oh, the symptom of a pure heart is they never desire to break the regulated principles. The symptom of a pure heart is they never forget Krishna. A symptom of pure heart is this or that. But here Vishwanath gives another definition. Mat pada seva chaga samarcha eva shuddha chittat vachanam. The china, or the symptom of a pure heart, shuddha chitta, is that someone can't give up service to Krishna's lotus feet. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached to Murari Gupta, I'm trying to think, was it Murray Gupta? Was it Anupam? I think it was Anupam. Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami kind of ganged up on him. I started preaching to Anupam, their brother, that what are you doing? Worshipping Lord Ramachandra. Anupam was very, very attached to worship of Lord Ramachandra. You should give that up and just worship Krishna, because Siddhanta Devi, Krishna is the topmost personality. He's above Lord Narayan, he's above Lord Ramachandra. And Anupam said, okay, I can't argue with you. You're my older brothers. And the next day when he came to see them, he hadn't slept all night. He looked exhausted and he'd been crying all night. And he said, okay, I can't give up the service to my dear Lord Ramachandra. And we had this verse recently also in Prema-bhakti-candrika, the Hanuman, he describes, Bhavabhanda chide tashai sprihiyami namuktaye bhavan prabhuraham dasi iti yatra vilupyate. Hanuman says that even though liberation will destroy the bondage of material existence, in other words, I understand Bhavabhanda chide tashai, that it'll destroy this bondage. This material world is not a nice place. If you think it's a nice place, really go live in the airport or go live in the shopping mall. we were in the airport a few days ago, and it's the first time we've been in the airport, I'm very happy to say, in nearly a year, about 8 months or something, isn't it? 6 months or more. And it was a good 6 months. We forgot how nasty the airport is. And today I had to go shopping for some things, some computer things, and I went to the shopping mall. Oh my God, it's not a nice place at all. It's completely horrible. But Hanuman saying Bhava Bhanda Chide Tasha, I don't hanker to get rid of this material existence. I don't mind, even if I have to live in the airport. Hanuman is saying, even if I have to live in the airport, I'll do that. But I can never give up the service of my Lord Ramachandra. That's my everything. So this is the mood of a devotee. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur stresses in many places, also in his commentary in the Bhagavad Gita on the famous Patram Pusham Phalam Toyam Yobat Me Bhakti Prayachati verse, where Krishna says, if someone offers me a fruit, flower, leaf, and water with devotion, then I accept those things. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments there, Atakvachit kama krodadi satvepi udkata damstaroga dam sanavat tasya kimchit karat vam gyayam. That if we see that a devotee is affected by kama or krodha, by lust or anger, you don't pay attention to those things. You should think, Utkata damstaroga damsanavat. You should think it's just like someone who's been bitten by a very deadly poisonous snake, but that snake has broken teeth. It has no teeth. It has no meaning. It's an insignificant setback, which doesn't have any long-term effects on the devotee's devotional life. So there's no poison in the broken fangs of the broken fangs of a snake. So its bite's not a significant problem, although it appears very dangerous and very serious to someone who's not informed and they don't understand the situation. So the devotees, they're offering whatever they can to the Lord, and the Lord accepts those offerings of the devotees. And other than association with such devotees, we have no hope of attaining any value, any significance in life. There's simply the nature of Gurudev is he's just always constantly 24 hours a day thinking, how can I serve my Guru? How can I serve Krishna? How can I serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? In the Bhaktamala of Navadas, there's a nice story about one devotee whose name was Haridas, Sri Haridas. And this Sri Haridas was very, very attached to serving the Vaishnavas. And one day, a group of Vaishnavas came to the house of Sri Haridas while he was gone. And his wife welcomed them very warmly and took very good care of them, fed them, and gave them some place to rest and some water and things. And then they finally left. When Haridas returned, he heard about the Vaishnavas and he saw they were all gone. He became very sad and started running after them just to have their darshan. This is the nature of the devotees. So when Krishna saw how eager Haridas was to have association and service for the devotees, how much love he had in them, how much faith he had in them, Krishna became very pleased. And he appeared before Sri Haridas in the form of a devotee and asked him, so where are you going? And Sri Haridas told him, I'm looking for the devotees who came to my house while I was gone. And then the Lord told him something which Sri Haridas thought was a rather strange comment. He said, just by having my darshan, then you'll get the benefit of seeing the devotees. And Sri Haridas, he kind of sighed. He thought, oh God, here's another one of these Hare Krishna people who want to brag about themselves and that. And then he said, okay, can you answer my questions? Can you glorify the Lord like the devotees do? Yes, I can do. Okay, can you take prasadam? Like the Lord said, yes, definitely. And then Krishna started doing kirtan. He's disguised as a devotee. He started doing kirtan. And it sounded like there were thousands and thousands of devotees doing kirtan. And Sri Haridas was amazed. So he said, well, now you have to take prasadam like the devotees. And so he brought him to his home and fed him very sumptuous, very opulent, nice prasadam, so many preparations. And in the guise of a devotee, hidden away as a devotee, the Lord ate everything that had been cooked. And then after he ate everything, then Sri Haridas could understand, wait a minute, no ordinary jiva could do that. Who are you? You must be Krishna himself. So in the previous verse, Nautam Das Thakur says that Vraja Basa Govinda Sevana, that we should live in Vrindavan with our present bodies and we should worship Govinda there. And so we were speaking about how if someone doesn't have the good fortune to live in Vrindavan, so what will they do? And Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has a couple of verses which are credited to him. Vrindavane kim matava nija mandirava, karagri kim matava, kanak kanakasaneva, ayindram bhaji kim atava narakabhajami. Shri Krishna Sevanam Riti Nasukam Kadapi. So he's speaking about Shri Krishna Sevanam Riti Nasukam Kadapi. He says, without serving Krishna constantly, Riti at all different seasons, Nasukam Kadapi, there's no question of happiness. And therefore, Vrindavane Kim Atava Nija Mandireva, whether you're living in Vrindavan or you're living in your own house, Nija Mandireva, Karagre Kimatava, Kanakasaneva. Kanaka means gold. Whether Katagrahi means a prison, whether you're living in prison or you're sitting on top of a golden throne. Ayendram Bhaji Kimatava Narakam Bhajami. Whether you're in heaven, Indra Bhaji Kimatava Narakam Bhajami. Whether you're in hell, just worship Krishna. Never stop. Shri Krishna Sevanam Ritina Sukam Kadapi. This is the essence of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, this service. For the devotees, they can't live without service. That service is everything. So Narottam Das Thakur is speaking about this service as being the way to establish Vrindavan Dham. Sometimes we tell the devotees when they come to Jagannath Puri, we encourage them to do Dham Seva. And we ask them, what is the best Dham Seva? The best Dham Seva is Nam Seva, is service to the holy name. And it doesn't mean that we go to Jagannath Puri, you spend thousands of dollars in tickets, and you go there and to do Nam Seva, you lock yourself up in a closet somewhere, and you sit down and you're going to chant 3 lakhs a day. But we want to remind the residents of the Dham about Vrindavan. This is why Harinam is such a very, very important service. Harinam is the root of everything. And that Harinam comes from Sadhu Sangha, but it also gives Sadhu Sangha. And then from that Harinam, we get some desire to hear the Bhagavatam. And from hearing the Bhagavatam, then we get some desire to live in the holy Dham. But all of that comes from Nam. And then from living in the holy Dham, then we finally get Sri Murtir Seva. We get service to the deity. All of these things are dependent on the holy name. So Srila Prabhupada, his vision was so amazing. He wanted to establish the Dham all over the world. And how is that done? You can go to Vrindavan. I told some story not so long ago. I'm not sure if it was to all of you or someone else. It wasn't a very nice story. There was one devotee from Mexico, South America, who was running a bookstore in Vrindavan. He was not an ISKCON devotee, but he was a nice devotee, and somehow he liked me very much, and he liked our books, and I would always go there to sell him our books. And then all of a sudden, he just disappeared, and he was gone. Nobody found him for like, I don't know, and nobody heard anything about him for a few weeks or a month. And then they found his dead body. And some of the local Brijbasis had taken a tractor and run over his head back and forth. Hare Krishna. And it turned out that this friend of mine, I'm sorry, he had some very evil propensity for little boys. And the Brijbasis, that's how they dealt with it. So who's really living in Vrindavan? You're living in Vrindavan, you're selling books, you're just right close to the temples and places in Vrindavan. But are you really living in Vrindavan? If you have such a horrible desire to abuse small children and things, you're not in Vrindavan, you're in Naraka, you're in hell. Whereas on the other hand, Jaigor is in New York, but he's living in the spiritual world. If you're going out and doing Harinam every day, in Jagannath Puri, we commented, Jaigor, you probably remember this too. We started doing Harinam every day, just a short time, like 1 or 2 hours a day or something. It wasn't such a long time. We have other services we have to do. And all of a sudden, just everything changed. And I commented one day to the devotees that before we started doing Harinam, it's like everything was in black and white. And then you start doing Harinam, and all of a sudden everything's in full color. And everybody's so ecstatic, and everything is so very, very wonderful. Because we're establishing Vrindavan. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur is encouraging us in these verses. That we should reside in Vrindavan. We want to establish Vrindavan. Vrindavan means that place, Krishna Kata, Krishna Nama, Satya Satya Brajadam, Brajajanara Sangha Anukshana. Narottam Das Thakur said that previously. That this sweet relish comes when we're constantly chanting Krishna Kata and Krishna Nam in Vrindavan. And as we commented before, not just Krishna Nam or not just Krishna Kata. Some people I know, some scholars who like to hear Krishna Kata, they like to study books, but they don't have much taste for Krishna Nam. And then on the other hand, you have some people, maybe they think that oh, Krishna Nam is very nice music, and this is just so far out, man. I really like it so much. And it's kind of like a rock concert, maybe, or there's some entertainment for them. And that's also nice. But they're not getting the proper benefit. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Krishna Kata, Krishna Nama, Satya Satya Brajadam, Brajajanira Sangha Anukshana. That this Satya Satya Brajadam, if we do this Krishna Kata and Krishna Nam, then we're living in the Dham. Now, usually our acharyas put Krishna Nam before Krishna Kata. Why does Narottam Das Thakur here reverse the order and say Krishna Katha, Krishna Nam, because he's not speaking just about what we call Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita in one purport, the pious benefit that someone gets by chanting the holy name. But this is a different type of name. Krishna Katha is first. And from that Krishna Katha, then you understand something about the sweetness and the position of Krishna. So Krishna Katha, Krishna Nama, then you can chant Krishna Nama. Satya Braja Dham. And then you establish in truth, Braja Dham is there. It may not look like it, but it's there. It may seem like it's Paris or London or New York or some other place, but if the devotees are doing kirtan and Krishna Katha, then in truth, that's Vrindavan. Whereas on the other hand, as I told this sad story of this friend of mine who was seemingly living in Vrindavan, he's not living in Vrindavan. He's living in some terrible place. So if we always do Krishna Katha, we always chant Krishna Nam, then we're really living in the Dham. And Braja Janira Sangha Anukshana, then we can constantly associate with the residents of Vrindavan. In truth, we can associate with the residents of Vrindavan. In truth, we can associate with Gurudev. Whereas otherwise, if we just go to Gurudev and say, Guru Maharaj, I don't know, I've been a brahmachari now for 1.5 years, and I'm thinking maybe I should get married. Please give me some instruction. If we're just looking for Gurudev to be a matchmaker and arrange a marriage for us, or to try, Gurudev, I don't know what to do. I don't have any money or anything. Can you please help me and arrange some service in ISKCON that I can get paid by? That's not why Gurudev is there. Now, Gurudev may do those things, but that's not his purpose. And as my Guru Maharaj comments sometimes, if someone takes shelter of those things from Gurudev, they get those things, and Gurudev is really just cheating them. Because the real mercy of Gurudev comes through the holy name. And therefore, Rupa Goswami, he's given us, we were speaking about it this morning, his Upadesh Amrita. Amrita means nectar. And Upadesh means instructions, the nectar of instruction. Or another meaning of Amrit is something which is the truth. Another meaning of Amrit is something which is essential. Another meaning of Amrit is something that you take, and by taking it, then you won't know Mrit, you won't know death. It's Amrit. You'll never have to die. So this is a book of Amrit, of the most important Upadesh, instructions. And in the 8th verse, he gives a verse which he says is Upadesha Saram. This is the essence of all instructions. So the whole book is the essence of instructions. And then this one verse, this 8th verse, is the essence of instructions. And what is that verse? Tanama rupa charitari sukirtanano smityo kramena rasana manasini yoja tistan Brajeta dhanuragi jananugami kalam nayeda kilamityupadesha saram. That we want to constantly chant the holy name and meditate on the form of the Lord, meditate on the pastimes of the Lord. In this sequence, which Rupa Goswami, he says there's a sequence in this verse. Tanama rupa charitari sukirtananu. First of all, you chant the holy name. Then you understand, you can appreciate something of the form of Krishna. Then you can understand the charit, or the pastimes of Krishna. And from that, then you go back to the holy name again, but this time sukirtananu. You do kirtan. And not just kirtan, but sukirtan. Sukirtan means very, very sweet kirtan. And it's not just sukirtan, but it's sukirtan anu. Anu means to follow. And then he says the word anu goes, it can, depending on the sandhi, how you break up the verse, it can be part of the next word in the next line, smitya, to remember, anusmiti, that one is following and they remember. One is following Gurudev. one is following the Vaishnavas and hearing a sweet Krishna Katha of the Brij Basis of Vrindavan. And if someone does that, they hear about the name, the Rup, and the Charit, then they can do Sukirtananu. They can do Sukirtan, very, very special kirtan, because that Sukirtan Anu, it's Kirtan Anu, it's Kirtan following the footsteps of those great personalities. Or you can say Sukirtan, and from that Sukirtan comes Anusmitya, that we're following in the remembrance. We have this remembrance, we've heard this Krishna Katha from Sadhu Guru. Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja. And then we become fixed up in Rasana Manasi. We're chanting the holy name with our tongue, and it comes to our mind in a natural way. Tishtan Braje Tadanuraga Jananugami. And this is what it means to reside in Vrindavan. Tishtan Braje. To be anurag, to be following in the mood, following in the feelings of the residents of Vrindavan. Jananugami, kalam nayed, akilam ityupadesha sadam. So constantly, kalam nayed, constantly behaving like this. Akilam ityupadesha sadam. Out of all the different instructions, this is the crest jewel. This is the most important of all instructions. Tanama rupa charitari sukirtanani smityo kramena rasana manisi niyoja tistan bhaje tananuragi jananugami kalam nayed akila nityu padesha sadam. Just constantly being absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And this is our everything. This is our life. And if we render, we do kirtan in that way, the Sukirtananu, another meaning it is that we're rendering service. Anu means to follow. We're doing a Sukirtan. We're joining the kirtan party and we're following the kirtan party. It can literally mean that when the devotees, they go walking, sometimes the devotees do walking kirtan, sometimes they do sit down kirtan. When they're doing walking kirtan, it literally means you're following behind them. Or when the devotees go and sit down, you also follow them to that place. That's Anu, Sankirtan Anu. But another meaning of it is that we're following the mood. Another meaning is that we're also doing that kirtan. And we're trying to do it to the best of our ability. Smityo kamena rasana manasi niyoja. And as we're practicing this thing, the krama, the sequence will naturally take place. And it becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Tishtan bhaje tananuraga jananugami. And we begin to understand the mood of the residents of Vrindavan that comes to our heart. So chanting like this constantly, Rupa Goswami says, is the essence, ityupadesha saram, the essence of all advice. Again, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a famous verse, Seva sadhika rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsuna karya braja lokanusarataha. That braja lokanusarataha, we want to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. And we do that, Seva sadhika rupena. We do that, we render service in our sadhika rup by rendering service to the devotees of Vrindavan, by following in the mood of this kirtan, by being anusarata, braja lokanusarataha. This is the essence of what Narottam Das Thakur is speaking also. In Prema-bhakti-candrika, Narottam Das Thakur basically is giving us the essence of the writings of all the Goswamis, and especially Rupa Goswami. But he's doing it in a very, very sweet way in the Bengali language. A friend of mine was recently complaining about some translations in the Bhagavatam. And he was saying that why are they, what was the verse? I was quoting it this morning, Krishna Kund. That there's two, when one renders service to the book Bhagavat or the Grantha Bhagavat. Do you remember that, Krishna Kund? What is the verse? It's in the You definitely know that verse.
Dui Bhagavata Seva.
Yeah. But how does it begin?
Dui Bhagavata Seva. Dui, D-U-I, Dui Bhagavata Seva.
Oh, Dui Bhagavata Seva. That's a different verse, but the phrase Bhagavata Seva also appears in there.
Vraja Loka Anusarataha.
No, that's also another verse. Just get looking. It's really nice.
Not getting it.
Shuradanas, yeah.
That's also
Vasudeva.
nice verse too.
Kataruchi, that one?
No, that's also a wonderful verse though. That sounded is that Lokaram?
It was CC, no? It was.
No, it's not CC. It's first canto Bhagavatam.
It's first canto Bhagavatam. Okay.
Yeah, Nastafaya Sabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Bhagavati Shloki Bhakti Bhavati
Where
Naishtiki.
is Dui Bhagavata Seva there?
Yeah, the Bhagavata Seva. That's how I was thinking.
Okay, not Dui Bhagavata.
Yeah, not Dui Bhagavat. I got confused.
Okay, that's very good.
I don't know how I appeared in Chaitanya Charitamrita, sorry.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives such an amazing commentary. I don't remember why I was just mentioning this verse, and I kind of lost track of it. But anyway, how that by doing service to the devotees, Bhagavata Sevaya. Oh, I remember what it was, that one friend of mine was complaining that how can you say that Bhagavata Sevaya means to the devotees? He said the verse is speaking about the Bhagavatam. And now you're adding this thing in the translation. And he was publicly saying this, and he's a little bit of a scholar. So I didn't want to quarrel with him, but I said, well, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we follow Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, and both of them in their commentaries in this verse define Bhagavata Seva is rendering service to the devotees of the Lord. They say this is the meaning of this particular verse. So anyway, this friend of ours, he became a little annoyed. He said, well, we should just have a literal translation. But that's not, I explained to him that that's not the purpose of our acharyas, just to have some, what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would call a lexicographical perspective. Lexicography is the study of language, or to make a dictionary. So it's not that they're completely wrapped up in lexicography and dictionary type things, but they have a purpose, and their purpose is to give the essence of this to the devotees. Now remember why we're speaking this, and this is what Narottam Das Thakur has done. He's taken the essence of Rupa Goswami's words, but he's put it in his own way with his own realizations in Prema-bhakti-candrika, and it's become even more sweet. Mahuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Just like the examples given in the Bhagavatam, that if you take a mango and a parrot bites into it, then the mango becomes even sweeter. And so this mango of Srimad Bhagavatam, which has been bitten into by Shukadeva Goswami, has become even more sweet. So that's the nature of Krishna Katha. When we associate with devotees who are hearing and chanting, that hearing and chanting becomes more and more sweet. In another purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that actually there's no happiness in hearing and chanting unless one is with the devotees. The happiness in hearing and chanting is there in association with the devotees. And he put, I think it's on his commentary on Bhaktim Mahu Prabhatam Tvayame Prasanga verse in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. So we'll go ahead and stop there. Just looking here. That must have, Pranahari, was that you who spoke up a few minutes ago? Somehow your voice sounded like Lokaram to me.
Yes, Prabhu, it was. I realized it was the wrong verse though. Nashta Prayasha Padrsha. Yeah.
It's really ecstatic. Everybody's thinking of different things, and all the answers are correct also. So why don't we go ahead and stop there, and maybe the devotees have some reflections or questions, comments they want to take part in. Does anybody want to do it? I before we were calling on every single person, but I don't think it's necessary. Just if anybody would like to speak something, you can raise your hand. and they have this little function here. Let me see. Where is it at? If you go down, what is it? Reactions or more? You can raise your hand. It's somewhere. Does anybody know where it's at? Yeah, I think down in reactions or something, you can raise your hand. Anyway, anybody want to make any reflections or comments or anything?
Thank Krishna.
Krishna,
Thinking that the answer to your scholarly friend could be that just close by is the Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipro, which has the obvious meaning of serving the devotees.
You know, my humble realization, I don't want to speak about this person because it's someone I've known for a long time and I have affection for him. But at one day, he was having some private discussions with me and expressing insane to me doubts, like doubts about our acharyas and doubts about the Bhagavatam itself and things. And I'm like, where are you coming? And then I realized that all of these things weren't the real essence. The real essence, he has some doubt about certain things. And I pointed out the particular doubt that he had, and I don't want to mention that even. And he just kind of became quiet. Yeah, you're right. So sometimes we bring this thing up or that thing, but it's just a what's the word? It's something which is a diversion from our concern, just something else. Anything else, Prabhuji?
I really like this Vishwanath Chakravarti's the symptom of purity, inability to give up serving the Lord. It sounds so great. I was just thinking, how would it be observable without giving like we don't want to see anyone like giving up devotional service. So as we are in the Vaishnava Sangha, we are with devotees engaged in the devotional service, and we are not really aware of their ability or inability to give up the service. So not in a sense that we would like to judge someone, but as the word symptom is used there in the translation. So I was thinking, like, how is this symptom observable? Like, how is it perceivable?
Their desire to serve or not serve, you're saying?
No. This there was this statement by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that the symptom of purity there was this phrase Shuddha Chitta,
right,
is the inability to give up serving the Lord.
So and they never stop serving.
Yeah, but until they're serving, how do we know whether they are able or not able to to give up? Like, maybe I'm just too complicated. Until our great anyway, I don't want to use the names and anything, but for 20 years you could see like unable to give up the service, and all of a sudden you're just off of it. And until that time, everyone could think, you're Mahabhagavad, you're a symptom of your purity.
When I moved into the temple in Los Angeles, I'd been there for a week or something, and I tell the story sometimes. I would start dancing in the kirtan, just in Namaon. I would start dancing immediately. And I would just dance through the whole kirtan. And one of the new devotees had said, "Wow, Prabhu, you're so advanced. You're this and that." But I'm not advanced at all. I'm just full of material desires and full of all kinds of nonsense and things, but it appears like that. So we may see someone who just dances every minute of the kirtan. They jump up and down real high, that they seem really, really ecstatic. And we may think, oh, this person's a really advanced devotee. I don't think there's so much harm in that if what we're appreciating is the principles of bhakti.
Mhm.
What becomes problematic is when we become a personality cult.
Yeah.
And we start saying, Leela Purushottam, I saw the other day he was crying, when he was in the garden and he was in ecstasy and he stepped on an onion or something. That's really
Probably.
But then you just want to go on and on about Leela Purushottam, and then somebody comes and says, yeah, but that Leela Purushottam, he's just this and that. And then you become angry and you want to punch him in the nose and things. That's a personality cult. But Krishneti Yashigiri Tvam Manasadi Eta Dikshasti Chet Pranati Bishya Bhajantami. Rupa Goswami says that we respect devotees according to bhajan, according to their chanting the holy name, according to Dikshasti Chet Prajantam, they're doing bhajan to the Lord, according to Shushushaya Bhajana Vigyan, that they're expert in doing bhajan, Nindari Shunarhidam, that their heart has no propensity to criticize. Those are things that we give more respect to. But if you contemplate the matter, as we often comment on that verse, those things can be imitated. Someone can chant the holy names, can wear a Brahmin thread and wave some incense. I see a lot of people in Kolkata and different cities who come up to their auto rickshaw wallers and they start waving incense and they're yim yang yoom yoom and they start chanting some kind of strange mantra. They charge some rupees for that, and who knows what it is. So those things can be imitated. But Shushushaya Bhajana Vigyan, so someone who's expert in bhajan, and Nindadi Shunirhidam, whose heart is faith and propensity to criticize others, that indirectly indicates we have to associate with that person for some time. It's something which is going to take some time, and therefore our acharyas repeatedly encourage, when we're looking for guru, we should spend some quality time with that personality, spend a few years with them and watch their behavior and things, and then see. And before then, we can always appreciate the service someone does. Wow, they cooked, they organized this festival, they were so sweet, they did this thing or that thing. And we can appreciate, and we should appreciate those services. But before we start elevating someone to a high position, which we've seen too often in ISKCON, and it's not uncommon, it's the nature of neophytes, we should take some time. That's my thought. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's very nice. Also, what came to my mind on the way as you were answering was that what I remember many examples that actually that I had a luck to observe, that this it might become symptom, like perceivable symptom, when you see the devotee going through some troubles, like serious health issues or family issues, whatever, something serious, and still you see them really like faithful to the service, to the chanting of the holy name, to the Vaishnava Sangha, then it really could be perceived as a symptom, like they don't give up.
I like that very much. That's a really nice comment. Thank you. Yeah, and we'll see that when people go through things, or their husband or their wife leaves their body, they're going through this problem and that, but they just don't give up their service.
Yeah.
That devotee is a very, very special devotee.
Yeah, and then it's very natural to perceive it as a symptom of purity, of a symptom of sharanagati, of dedication, and it's like it's really natural to see it like that. Yeah, thank you very much. And I was really shocked by the story of your Vrindavan friend. That's really heavy.
That's one of the worst stories. I'm sorry for telling it. My wife was like, looking at me like, oh my God. I talked to somebody who was there when they found the body, and I don't want to tell anything more. It was not pretty. It was really, really horrible.
Yeah.
It was very striking to me because he was my friend. He was someone I saw quite often. He was a friendly kind of guy. Not a deep friend, but like a friendly acquaintance kind of person. But he'd been doing really bad things with children, Brijbasi children, and this is what they did with him. So he's living in Vrindavan, but he's not living in Vrindavan.
Yeah. Maybe a little symptom for, or symptom, a little sign for our movement. What's Krishna's approach to these things? Like a serious warning. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else want to share anything?
Yeah.
Krishna Kun, you want to share something? Manasi. Okay, go ahead.
I can ask.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, thank you for a beautiful kata. You mentioned airports and you mentioned shopping malls, and now you had near experience. Yeah. So how devotees are often in shopping malls and in airports, how to protect ourselves. You actually describe those places little as hellish as I could understand.
I was meditating on that recently. And what we did when we went to the airport was I just took a verse and I just made that verse close to my heart. Actually, it was a verse we were speaking today, Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu. And I was just all day long just repeating that verse over and over again and just meditating. And as we're walking to the airport with our bags, I had my phone there looking at it and reciting this verse and thinking about this verse. And I felt some shelter like that. Of course, we've also experienced, I remember when I was a brand new devotee, one of the first services that they gave me to do was there was a table selling prasadam at the local zoo where the animals were kept. And I'd been in the temple for like a week or 2 weeks or something, and I was on the table. And I was very susceptible to Maya in so many different ways. I just been enjoying, but it was so ecstatic being on that table. I remember calling people, we have fresh hot cookies, get your cookies. And when we become absorbed in a service like that, then we're not in the material world. We're not at the zoo. We're not at the airport. We're in the spiritual world. And we should understand that. And Srila Prabhupada was just so many pastimes of him in the airports. And Prabhupada was very ecstatic and speaking Krishna Katha and things. Wherever Prabhupada was, Krishna was there. I was reflecting it today in the shopping mall. I don't like the music. I don't like the decorations. I don't like the way the people dress. So many, and then I was reflecting that, well, I should be thinking of Krishna. And if I'm not thinking of Krishna, then maybe there's a tiny little bit of mode of goodness which has come to me due to association with the devotees. And then what happens if I'm not thinking of Krishna, then I can't help it, but I start hating people. I start disliking them. Oh, this place is so nasty. These people are so bad. These people are just like prostitutes and drug addicts and horrible low-class people. I don't want anything to do with them. And we think like that. Whereas on the other hand, if we go out and we just want to distribute books and we want to do Harinam, we want to engage people, then all of a sudden we see everybody is wonderful. Even people in New York City. Does that make sense, Jaigor? And it doesn't get much worse than people in downtown New York City. Jaigor agrees with that one. Maybe in California. I used to take the new bhaktas on Harinam. That was my service as a bhakta leader. And we would take them to Venice Beach. And I remember sometimes some of the new bhaktas would come and they'd start crying, literally. Prabhu, please, I don't mind going at Harinam. We can go anywhere, but please not Venice Beach. not Venice Beach, please. Because this poor young man, he's full of testosterone. You go to Venice Beach and there's all these young girls in bikinis and things, and it's difficult. He was crying a bit. But the devotees that we've seen every year, Rath Yatra time in Los Angeles, it's ecstatic. Krishna just takes over the beach. So that's another thing. We have to, I've seen many times we go on Harinam and you're chanting with the devotees, but you're not really with the devotees. Your body is, you're standing there, maybe your lips are chanting, but your mind is looking at something else. You're thinking of some other thing. So we have to get with it. And we should try to associate with persons who are very powerful. And especially these two weapons. We have nice Harikatha and nice Kirtan. Those two things are very, very important. Guru Harish Charna Pasanastra, the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, says there's two astras, two weapons. One is the service of Gurudev, which we understand by hearing Krishna Katha, and the second is Krishna Nam, which also we understand by hearing Krishna Katha from Gurudev. So those two things are very powerful weapons to conquer Maya. Is that helpful?
Yes, yes. What I found difficult when I'm on the airport or in the shopping mall is the music, very loud music, which is having some Rajas energy. And I'm feeling when I enter that places that I have to protect myself somehow. Then I usually start to chant in my mind, or I start to do something to defend myself from this music.
Yeah. I don't know, somebody could correct me, this may just be an urban legend, what they call in America, but I've heard that they have these, they give subtle instructions sometimes in the music, or some voices, buy this, drink this, buy more, buy more, buy more. And I don't want to hear those voices. I want to hear Krishna's voice. So we have to try to block out those sounds. That also is what makes it the worst for me. When we went, I remember one airport, first airport we went to, we were in 2 airports the other day, and the first airport was the worst because there was loud music. In the second airport, there was no music. And it was almost like nectar. You didn't feel like you were being assaulted all the time. I guess we can also put in some earphones too and listen to some kirtan or something. A lot of devotees do that. Or better yet, once during the COVID lockdown, it's a long story. I don't want to tell the whole story, but we flew from Delhi to Kolkata, and there was a huge queue, like an hour-long queue or something. Everybody, because they had to test everybody to see if they had a fever. Otherwise, they would take them to the hospital, the doctor or something there in the airport. So they were testing everybody when they were going to the airport. So we're standing in this long queue, and someone had given me one of these little portable Harinam harmoniums. And so we just started doing kirtan inside the airport. And it was really, really ecstatic and kind of real soft, gentle singing. And people were really, really appreciating it. It changed the whole mood of things. But that's not always possible. Although here in Debrecen, Nitai Bhavana Prabhu, sometimes when he does Harinam, he takes us to the shopping mall. And we go through the shopping mall until we get thrown out. Sometimes they catch you at the door and they just don't let you inside at all. He's very bold. I love the devotees doing things like that. Hare Krishna. Is that okay? Vikram Prabhu, do you want to share anything? Is he allowed to say something, Mataji?
Yeah, question. In the beginning, you said, quoting from the verse, in my mind, with firm faith and fearlessness, I always desire to serve their lordships. So I always want to know more about faith, especially firm faith. I used to take it, for granted, this the term of faith is just like a first level. It's like fixed, let's go further. Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya and Anartha and everything. And further. So it was like I took it for granted. I have faith, that's fixed, let's go. Then I heard, if it is so, that the faith or Shraddha come from the same dhatu as the heart or hridaya. So if that is correct, the dhatu here is hrid. So with some, what is the word, derivation, it comes to the same, become the same dhatu for the word Shraddha. So the heart and Shraddha are somehow also connected. I understand heart, of course, not as a pump in the body, but a place where we can feel and think and wish. So maybe a few words about this firm faith and connection between the heart and the faith.
I was just reading a commentary recently on this verse, Shraddha Sabdi Vishwas Kahi, suited in his Choi Krishna Bhakti Kwali Sarva Karma Krita Hoy, of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, where he defines Shraddha. He says that Shraddha Sabdi Vishwas Kahi, it's Shraddha is Vishwas. And the commentary was pointing out that these two words, they're synonymous for each other. The Vishwas is also a word for faith. What is the difference? And is it a fault on behalf of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that he's stuck in two words? Like sometimes you're trying to make a poem, so you just throw in some word, extra word, just to make it rhyme, just to have enough syllables. No, he's not doing that. Vishwas is something else. It's also faith, but it's faith on a higher platform, faith which comes by hearing Shastra. Is Shastriya Shraddha. So we have some faith which comes, as you're saying, to the heart, and especially when we hear. But when that becomes more fixed up, and that Vishwas comes when we begin to contemplate on it, when we practice manana, when we start thinking about what we're doing, then we become more fixed in that thing. It's not just the I believe in it, and I'm a fanatic and this, but a lot of those people, they don't last. I've seen so many devotees who were very angry sometimes, ISKCON's the only way, and I hate the Gaudiya Math, and I hate the Babajis, and I hate this person, I hate that person, or my guru's the only way. They do the same thing, and I hate everybody else. And those persons, they generally don't last very long. Because although they have some kind of faith, you can't deny that it's faith that they have, but it's not Vishwas, it's not Shastriya Shraddha, it's not something which is based on Shastra. Rather, Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls it Lokik Shraddha, or common faith, which happens a lot of times because there's so many numbers. We go to the Serbian retreat, and wow, this must be really nice. This is really, because there's so many people here. It must be really bona fide. Well, don't judge that it's bona fideness or not just because of the number of people who are there, because Adolf Hitler also had a lot of people following him. Mundane politicians also have someone. So someone has lokik shraddha, common faith, they think like that. We want to encourage devotees to have shastriya shraddha, deep faith, which is paramartik shraddha, transcendental faith. And that's the symptom of Madhyamadikari. There's a lot of things we could say about it. It's a big subject. Is that helpful? Something?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. You guys are okay?
Yes, it's hot here in Split. We will stay for a few months more, and then we will go for a longer period in Mayapur. Oh. With your blessings, we will do some service there, not offenses.
You'll go to Mayapur where it's nice and cool. No, it's very, very. When Krishna Kuhn first went there, she thought, "Oh my God, I can't breathe," because the humidity was so intense. I mean, she really thought she wouldn't be able to breathe at all. It was a really, really heavy thing. We were just in Lithuania for a few weeks, and it was cold for me, especially. The devotees were laughing at me because I had like 2 coats on and things. I'm used to India more. It's nice weather there. Here in Hungary, it's quite a bit warmer. And I think in Moldova and Ukraine we'll be going tomorrow. Krishna, can you have something?
Can we go back? Bhakti-candrika speaks about this connection between
Can you come closer?
Shraddha, the heart, and faith.
Uh-huh.
And it reminded me of.
Can you hear what she's saying?
Yes, she mentioned the Bhakti-candrika Goswami, and he is the source from which I heard the connection between this little bit of Yakaran, like the Dhatus and all combinations that that are coming from the same source, Hridaya and Shraddha. But I'm also thinking how it is more deeply how it is connected. But Bhakti-candrika Goswami was the source of the information.
So go ahead, Krishna.
And it just reminded me of Jiva Goswami, because Jiva Goswami speaks about how the quality of the heart, the purity of the heart, determines our faith in what we have faith in. And it makes sense that it would have some connection with this. I don't need the camera. I just wanted to ask you what.
The reason why I put the cameras is so they can see your lips and it'll help them understand what you're saying.
So sorry.
Because they can't hear you very well, Krishna. In the in the Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami quotes this verse from Brahma-vivarta Purana. Yavat papas tu molinam, hridayam tavadeva hi. That molina means contamination. When the heart is contaminated with with sin, then nashastra satyabuddhi shat sabbuddhi sadguru tata. Then they don't have faith in the proper things. Now, Shastra, they don't have faith in Shastra. Satya Buddhi, they don't have transcendental intelligence. They don't have faith in Sadguru. They don't have faith in any of those things when the heart is contaminated by sin, or we can say by offenses. And we've practically seen that also. So that real faith then comes from hearing from sadhu.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jaigor, do you want to share something?
Yes, Baru, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
You were speaking about how, becoming absorbed in Krishna Katha and Krishna Nam establishes Vrindavan. And I was thinking about how, Srila Prabhupada mentions the most pleasing thing to him is that we actually become Krishna conscious, which means coming to the platform of Prema. I was thinking, we're supposed to make the instructions of Guru our life and soul, but sometimes it may seem like maybe gurus in the movement or devotees in a position of management it might seem like they don't appreciate absorption in Krishna Nam, Krishna Katha as much as they do something practical, quote unquote practical, so that
especially collecting money.
Yeah, especially that. And so it might leave, programs such as, the daily Harinam here, the devotees feeling like they're not supported by ISKCON so much. Or I was thinking about, maybe I'm sure you felt like that in the past. I was thinking about this particular pastime you were telling about, getting denigrated by a certain devotee in Mayapur for saying, when you were selling the magazine, Nityananda magazine, in front of these. So and I was also thinking about this pastime with Krishnadas Babaji, where he was chanting all of the time, and his godbrothers were criticizing him, and he had Srila Bhaktisiddhanta there to directly defend him. That your only service is to do Krishna Nam, but it doesn't seem like we always have that. So I'm kind of thinking how to deal with this, and also how to, in my own heart, I'm seeing, some devotees don't support, how to not become offensive or proud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our next magazine, I'm trying to think what we're going to title it. Probably I have had a few titles so far: Divine Madness, is one title. God's idiots is another title. Or the third, which is what I'm thinking to go with, is the madness of the saints. And I want to share with you a few words from an article that I'm working on. We speak about idiots. I know you may have heard me speak about this before, I don't know. But I did some research on the word idiot. Idiot's a noun generally meaning a stupid person. It comes from the Latin word idiota, an ignorant person. And they say it comes from the Greek also. There's idiotes. Idiotes means a private person, or someone doesn't know, but he's a simple kind of person. Idios means private or their own person. And that's like opposed to stratiotes. Stratiotes means a soldier. And stratiotes comes from the word stratia, which is the root word of the army. So there's certain people who march in line in the army, and they're stratiotes. But then you have the idiotes, the idiots, they're not marching with the army. And so many people, they're thinking that, as you're saying, this Harinam, what value is it? Even I've heard senior devotees openly say that we should not do Harinam. I've heard people openly say that, not so much lately, but I've heard it in the past. That oh, this gives us a bad, appearance to people, and people think we're foolish, and this and that and the other. And I'm really sorry. I don't mean to criticize anyone, but I don't think they have very much faith in the holy name. Because the purpose of going out there is not just that we impress them by how wonderful we look. Indradumna Maharaj has a really beautiful looking procession, and they put all the young girls in the front, and they've got all these I don't know what we call them, fans, and they dance with it and things. And they have it is a really nice procession. There's nothing wrong with having a nice procession. That's really good. But you may have another procession just of a bunch of like unshaven, crazy guys with torn, dirty clothes. But if they're crying and they're jumping up and down in ecstasy, that's going to touch the heart of people. And therefore, I wanted to write something. I'm hoping we'll have time for this next issue about God's idiots. You've heard us speak about that before. Perhaps we gave a talk here, and it's a common thing. People think the Harinam party, they're just a bunch of idiots. Basically, they're just useless. They're people who can't be doing something else valuable, like book distribution, or okay, the Harinam party is doing some book distribution, but they don't have faith in the holy name. I'm sorry. And for me, I don't mind. To be part of this movement can mean a lot of different things. On one level, I'm an ISKCON devotee, and I cooperate with Prabhupada and the GBC and all like that. But in another level, I associate with, ISKCON for me is my Guru Maharaj and his certain sadhus and devotees who are doing kirtan, devotees who have a taste for Hari Katha, and that's ISKCON for me. And I just completely check out, like a lot of you, like Leela Purushottam Prabhu, I know it's like that too. Just completely checks out of other things where you see the motivation is money, or the motivation is this thing or that thing, and they don't appreciate this other. So I just started jokingly calling them idiots. They're idiots because they're just not good for anything. And I saw those idiots felt so happy when we called them idiots. Yeah, I'm just an idiot, man. That's right. You're one of God's idiots.
Mahaprabhu said the same thing.
Yeah. My guru said, Ami Murka, that I'm just a fool. Vedanta Nahika Adhika. I don't have qualification to hear Vedanta. All right. So just say a word to us or two. What do you experience? Do you experience sometimes, you're going out every day, I think, doing Harinam. I see your pictures and things. And what is the atmosphere? Just say something about the atmosphere, because it's Vrindavan when you go and you do kirtan like that, and people are coming, and it's you're in a bubble, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, sometimes we set up, and people are playing loud music or doing all kinds of, there's so much like Uga Karma stuff going on in New York, like just like in on you. But when you start the Harinam, it just, it all fades away, and it's quite wonderful. And I've noticed, there's so many sweet things. I noticed this phenomenon: bees come to leave their body at the Harinam. I noticed it when we would go on Harinam back in Michigan too. It's happened to me probably like 5-10 times. Big bumblebee came the other day, landed on this little shaker, and just sat there and listened to the kirtan, and then died. Like,
wow, that's
Wow.
ecstatic.
yeah, and
I'm
it's difficult too. But
I'm remembering doing kirtan with you at the Hash Bash
yeah,
in Michigan. For those of you who don't know, the Hash Bash, that's it's what it sounds like. It's a bash, it's a party, everybody smoking hashish and marijuana. It's a big thing. And we went there with the devotees, and I have to confess, I wasn't really sure if this is going to be very cool or not. It's like, are people going to have clothes on? Are they going to like, is everybody just going to be completely intoxicated? What's it going to be like? And we went there, and it was really, and I remember doing kirtan, and there was some person who came and just started spinning on their head, and people dancing. It was really, really ecstatic.
I was wondering if you might be able to comment, because I'm feeling like I need to do a lot of kind of preparatory work and make my sadhana very strong to be able to be on a platform of absorption when we're out on the Harinam, and we're trying to have a cohesive understanding, like you said, joint conception with some of the devotees, so that we can kind of focus in while we're out there. And sometimes, it's easy to kind of space out, especially if everyone's not on the same page. So I was wondering if you have any advice of how to, become more absorbed. Like, for instance, yesterday I was thinking about a particular time, and I was like, oh, this is like when Krishna's coming home from herding the cows. And I was able to kind of have that meditation, and it was really sweet, but other times, I feel like I'm not absorbed, and sometimes I see other devotees aren't absorbed when I'm trying to be absorbed. I get frustrated with them. So, any thoughts about that?
It's a difficult thing, and our minds are so restless, and we're neophyte devotees, especially speaking for myself. And being in such a situation like downtown New York, that is just so difficult. Maya is so strong. There's so many distractions there. I find it really helps that when we have a message, that we speak something amongst the devotees, we read something just before we start. I don't know if Roy Ram does that, or Ram Roy does that or not.
Usually speaks afterwards, but one thing we've been doing that you would probably really like is we have this little folding whiteboard, and it's usually been me, but we pick a verse and we write it on the whiteboard, and we put it in front of the Harinam so the devotees can see it. All the devotees can see it and meditate on it. A verse or a quote, usually quotes from Srila Bhakti-siddhanta, Prabhupada, or different verses.
I really like that. I mean, you're like the SEAL Team 7 or something, in America, the devotees going out in the front line like that. You're getting so much mercy. But it's really, really intense for SEAL Team. If those of you who don't know, SEAL Team 7 is those are the guys who killed Bin Laden, and they're like the top. What do you call those guys? Paratroopers or whatever, the fighters, in the American Army. So going out in Harinam is like that. I think it's really, really important that we have a good, strong sadhana, and the devotees come together. And I'm sure you must have a real strong camaraderie. I've seen that just in the kirtans and things with the devotees. There's a strong camaraderie amongst the devotees, because you have this feeling of dedication and things. But that camaraderie has to be built on strong Hari Katha in the morning, and good Hari Katha, not just, read something in a vague way or something, but really contemplating on it, paraspara, some back and forth discussion. And personally, I think it's really nice when we start off and you give some message for the devotees to read something, think about.
We wanted to do that, you know, have Ram Roy Prabhu say something when we're walking out the door, or at least, you know, have some. It's a little bit difficult sometimes to, you know, make that happen. I've noticed, but I don't want to give up on that. When I first came, I said we should say something beforehand, but it's kind of like a little bit passionate. We're just trying to rush out the door to get there on time.
Just getting out all the paraphernalia and then getting to the spot. And like you said, you got street musicians, you got all the sounds and things going on.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked when we were in Toronto was when they do Harinam, I've mentioned before, they sit in a circle and they face each other. And I think it's really cool in a park. And people, they just come and sit with you and they think it's like some kind of sit-in. Because you're in public, it's a public thing, but you're not, so they don't feel like it's a weird cult. We're trying to, you know, come join us, you know, kind of thing. Maybe you could do that in the beginning. Just sit around in a circle facing each other, so you're more concentrated on each other, and even give a time limit, just 5 minutes or 2 minutes even, or just say something and just meditate on, you know, this is our meditation for the day or something. And so then everybody gets on the same page more. You know, it's helpful. I know Ram Roy Prabhu's comments at the end are famous. But sometimes, you know, you could do those in the middle of the kirtan too. It doesn't have to just be, you could have it 3 or 4 different times. What we were doing, I found once in, where was that? When we went to that gay parade thing in Europe.
It's one in Stockholm.
Not in Stockholm either.
No?
It was in, maybe it was Stockholm. Anyway, I didn't think it was Stockholm.
I thought it was after Arnvik's festival.
No, that was, we just went with a few of us, and it was that country where we had to wait for hours for somebody to pick us up.
Right.
Norway, yeah. In Norway, we just sat down and started doing kirtan, Harinam on the street, and I stopped and said a few words, and what I talked about was music, and this is a mridanga, and these are kartals, and this, so to give them something they can relate to. But these are all instruments that are made by hand, and these all have spiritual purpose to the instruments. And just talk something about like that, and it gives people some idea. It's also nice for the devotees. I was a street musician before I was a devotee, and I remember seeing one group from South America who had all these amazing like flutes, instruments like you've never seen before. They're traditional South American instruments, and there's 6 or 8 of them, and they were very good. And they would play their thing, and then they would stop and they would describe each one of the instruments and the kind of genre of music they're doing and what they're doing. And people can really relate to that. And then, of course, that's a very easy way to begin to start speaking about bhakti also, things that we like. So I think you could do that practically any time you have an audience and people are paying attention. It's even kind of nice. I think it's even kind of respectful to them, because sometimes they just don't even know what in the world are you doing. And so they'd like to know. They just like to know. And if they can just understand that we're out here, we're chanting for world peace. These are the names of God. If they can put some label on it, I can identify it in some way. Then it helps them. Otherwise, it's just some strange looking people out chanting, singing some weird thing, you know. I mean, a lot of people now know something about the Hare Krishnas. But I don't know if that's helpful. I think about you a lot after Chaiko.
That is helpful. Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
You were speaking about how we should have strong Harikatha and good Harikatha together in the mornings. And I've been thinking about this because more and more as time goes on, I feel, and I've heard you speak about this, that as one, I guess, matures in devotional service, they tend to hear more from only a few people. And And I feel more and more guarded with who I lend my ear to as time goes on, because I've gotten something that I want to protect. At the same time, there's the regular Bhagavatam class going on, and I'm just trying to figure out the dynamic between those two things.
Let me give a little description. You can go to the temple, the Brooklyn temple. You guys are staying in the Brooklyn temple, right?
Yeah, I'm here now in ashram.
So there's a temple program going on there. And it's not always maybe so inspiring. There's different people speaking, and because that project is an open project it's an open door place for so many people. But you still feel part of things because you're part of the Brooklyn temple. But then later on, you have a private talk with Ram Roy or something, and you feel more sweet, more close with that because you have some faith in him. But even in that Sangha, because you didn't exactly choose who's going to be members of the Kirtan party and things, and some of them may be close and some of them may not be so close. So I think in our life, we should always be pursuing the Gambhira. In other words, Gambhira being a situation where we have a very intimate Sangha, where we're having Katha with, and we accept whatever situation may be. There may be the Jagannath Rath Yatra, which is Maha Kitri. It's so many different types of people and so many different moods there. But our desire is something more intimate than that. And we see in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu, sometimes in Rath Yatra with millions of people. Sometimes he's with big groups in the Gambhira. I want to start our Gambhira Katha again on Sundays. It's been a little hard traveling. The Gambhira actually, there's a big space there, and they were having large groups of devotees. We hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita, sometimes Mahaprabhu was there with many devotees at the end of Rath Yatra, at the end of Chaturmasya, when devotees are going back to West Bengal, and he was glorifying everybody. And it's very sweet, but it's not as sweet as it was a few hours later when it's only Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda. So we want to act according to the situation. That's our expertise. If it's a Rath Yatra in New York with thousands of people and things, we're part of that. And we want to support that. It's important. But we don't feel that's not really where our heart is at. And then later we go to the Brooklyn Temple. It's more intimate with the devotees there in the Brooklyn Temple, but it's still not exactly what we want. And then later you have a meeting with just the Harinam devotees, and you feel that's even sweeter yet. But even beyond that, you may ultimately be trying to create a very private Harinam. I think we'll always find ourselves in situations where there's a lot of devotees in the kirtan, a lot of devotees in the katha. We don't always feel so inspired by it, but we should support it. And we, at the same time, simultaneously, we may be better off to not say a lot in it, because if we speak up sometimes, and we so, in Prema-bhakti-candrika, it says this, and then someone looks at you and say, where did Prabhupada, Prabhupada didn't give us Prema-bhakti-candrika or something, and you just, okay. So that was a wrong thing to say in that kind of sangha. In that kind of sangha, you just say, Haribol, where's the pizza? Haribol. And everybody loves you. and that's part of the sangha. But then you have something more intimate. You can be we have to learn that art of that. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. So you're saying yes, and go to the Bhagavatam class, but also seek out something deeper.
Yeah. We want to support what Prabhupada's doing. It's really, really important. And although, like my friend, who's upset about, because it's not a literal translation of Prabhupada's books here and there, he doesn't understand Prabhupada's mood and Prabhupada's purpose. And his vision is obscured with his own desire, desire for his own understanding of things. And he can't understand and appreciate Prabhupada. It's sad. But unless, as someone was quoting earlier, Shushu Shadidana Shah, I think that was Pranahari Prabhu. Unless we do service to Guru, we can't get we get that Mahat Kripa. We can't get that Kata Ruchi. I'm sorry? Vikram Prabhu was quoting that. Thank you. It's a good verse to quote. Okay. Natalia's got her hand raised. Must be nice to Natalia. Hare Krishna, Natalia.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my obeisance. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Okay. I want to say some important points and 2 questions. One important was for me that we have to meditate constantly to keep in mind Krishna's name and form to start to understand the mood of residents of Vrindavan. It touched me somehow that just to start to understand the moods, we have to constantly keep in mind this. And that in truth we are associating with Gurudev only when we are listening and reading Krishna Katha and connected with that. You answered from some points, like there was discussion about it already, but maybe I don't know some new points. Like if first, if I can't recall some at sometimes, so I can recall Krishna's image only or some mood only if I read something, and for some short time I can keep it in mind, but it is gone. What is the what could be recipe for that? It goes away very fast. And second, what if devotees sometimes take it as offense, this absorption in Krishna Katha and holy name?
Yeah. First of all, about always chanting, it just reminded me of a story that I heard Guru Maharaj tell once. He was speaking about his mother, and his family were really, really amazing Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, worshiping Gopal their whole life and doing Harinam Kirtan their whole life. And he mentioned how his mother was always chanting. She always chanted. And then he told Jagadish Pandit, my godbrother was there, he said, once she forgot to chant. She forgot to chant. And Jagadish said, what happened, Guru Maharaj? And Guru Maharaj said, Krishna kicked her. I don't know exactly what that meant, but we should always try to chant. And we should understand that this is Krishna's test on us also. And even though that chanting, our Acharya's comments, sometimes it may not be with feeling, it may be somewhat mechanical, but still we should just try to chant. And even if it's offensive, Namaparada Yuktanam Namanyeva Harantigam, just keep chanting. Don't stop chanting no matter what. And yes, some people become offended by that. We have a lot of different types of people in our movement. And we should tolerate them and love them, just like you sometimes your children also. I remember once we were having an Abhishek for Radha Madhav, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's original deities, in Krishna Towers across the street from the temple Bhuvaneshwar. I was doing the Abhishek, it was Janmashtami night, and one of my godbrothers had come, and he had his little daughter. His daughter was about 5 years old at that time. And everybody's attention is completely on the deities. They're all looking at the deities, are doing kirtan, doing this Abhishek. And this little girl suddenly stands up and walks over and stands right in front of the deities with her back to the deities and starts kind of posing in different ways. And the devotees were laughing. Sometimes we're like that little girl. We want attention of everybody in the room. And we don't appreciate when someone's absorbed in kirtan or something. So it's very difficult, it's painful to associate with people like that. And we don't want to be angry people like that ourselves. We have to in our association with people who are close to us, we should encourage them to chant and not interrupt them when they're chanting their japa, and not interrupt them when they're reading or something, but let them become absorbed. And we ourselves, sometimes we have to physically even keep away from certain people and certain programs so that we can have that absorption, because it's so important that we have that absorption. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur, in this verse today, he's saying that if we have that kind of absorption, then the symptom is sabakaya hoya nirbhaya. There's no fear. We're very, very confident. We're very, very peaceful. I know I'm doing the right thing because I'm doing service. I've been absorbed in bhajan. Krishna's spoken to me through the holy name. He's spoken to my heart. And I've gotten some clarity like that. And that only comes when we get very, very absorbed in our nam-bhajan. This is kind of an answer for Jaigora too. That otherwise, when you go out in Harinam or something, the mind is going here and there, and it's so difficult. But when we can be absorbed in our private bhajan first, in our japa, but also in Tulsi Puja and all the different things that Srila Prabhupada gives us to do, that'll help. Is that okay, Natalia? Is that helpful? Okay, thank you. Okay, so Lila Purushottam Prabhu wrote some comments over here. Let's see. On the inner level, what I find very helpful personally is to meditate, maybe when I lead the kirtan, on the prayer to Nam Prabhu, to mercifully appear in the kirtan, and thus a distance from the position of karta abhiman in the kirtan. Yeah, that's very, very important. I think it's really, really helpful, again, if we have some verse, if we think, before I chant japa in the mornings, we have some verses that we recite to the holy name and that, and it just helps us to get in the right frame of mind. Yeah, these also disturb devotees. That we disturb devotees when we're neophyte ourselves. And we get a new toy, we hear some far out thing from somebody, I heard a recording and Ayendra Prabhu said this, wow, it was really far out. So let me take and share this with everybody else. And people go, oh my God, what does he mean? Varnashram Dharma is a waste of time.
That was exactly it. You hit the point. The quotes like, for me, the prospect of going to Vaikuntha is no better than going to hell.
That's offensive, Prabhu. How can you say that?
I really ended up in trouble with these quotes.
Yeah, you have to learn to kind of bite our tongues sometimes and hide our own good fortune and still just love them. Just like we do children children who are not always very mature, and sometimes children are really nonsense, but we just love them because they're kids. And we're hoping that someday they're going to grow up. So we're also hoping, like sometimes even with the temple president or managers, that someday they're going to grow up and it'll be good association.
And we grow up to being able to being mature enough to not to understand what's disturbing and what's appropriate and what's encouraging in certain sanghas and like that. And so
having discussions like this, I gave our last class the other day on what day? It was Saturday morning at the Baltic Summer Festival. And actually, it was an afternoon class. I did a slideshow on the origins of worship of Mahaprabhu. And I was walking away, and some young devotee I'd never met before, he came up to me and he said, Prabhuji, I want to thank you for those Prema-bhakti-candrika talks. He said, watching them. And he was not a Gurukuli devotee, but a second generation devotee. He hadn't been to Guru. I asked him if he was Gurukuli. He said, no, I never went to the Gurukula, but he's a second generation devotee. And one of the things that really struck him a lot, that really touched his heart, is the discussions that we've been having at the end of these. And that's something which is so important, And you can only do in your home and in a small sangha. And if some of the things you talk about in your home, you try to do in the temple to get everybody on the page, Prabhu, and they're going to freak out. And they're going to say, Varnashram karma is worse than hell.
We come to that conclusion in our small reading group so often, that we end up saying, like, I can say that here. I wouldn't dare to say it publicly in the class or something, but I know I can speak like that here. And that's very often the frame of our talks in our reading group. Because you know it, because you have such a intimate group with complete trust in each other, and you know that you're not gonna disturb those devotees with saying things frankly or whatever. Yeah.
I find also that the medium of recordings, if somebody's watching this right now, I find that it's people have to invest a lot to sit down and watch a whole recording. And most people, if somebody's envious or somebody doesn't have faith in the devotees, if they don't belong, they just don't have, they can't do it. They just can't invest the time for that.
It protects itself.
Yep, exactly.
So all glories to those devotees who still do it.
Yeah, as Krishna Kunj just said, all glories to those devotees who still do it. Okay, Radha Jivan Prabhu, you want to make any comments?
This kind of goes way back to the beginning of the Katha. Basically back to back, I have two things. One thing was I was appreciating the little pastime he told of Jayananda Prabhu when the devotee asked him how he's so advanced, and Prabhu said that I don't know. I don't have time to think about that. I only have time to do service. I like that little pastime. And then you also told the pastime on how Radharani was laying in bed and she was burning with the fire of separation from Krishna. But then once she was asked to go and cook for Krishna, she went to the kitchen and started making the fire. And the heat coming from the stove of that fire, you mentioned that it was cooling for her, right? So that was just making me think how in my position, burning in the material energy, the only real thing that will kind of extinguish that is, service to Guru and Gauranga, and whatever means that is. And it can, the more intense the service or the more perceivably hot the service may be, the paradox is that the more it'll have an effect on cooling us from this fire of material life.
Rupa Goswami tells a story in Ujjwal Nilamani how Radharani once, she's watching Krishna, and while she's watching Krishna, she doesn't realize where she's standing. She was standing on some extremely sharp rocks, which will cut the feet like razor sharp rocks. And they're red hot. It's in the middle of the day. They're maybe black rocks, and the sun's beating down on them. And Radharani, it feels as soft as cotton. So Srimati Radharani, as she's looking at Krishna, when she's seeing Krishna. So that should be our meditation, that we want to think of Krishna. And if we get absorbed in thinking of Krishna, then everything is okay. You got to tell Siddha Hari Prabhu, you'll see him. Radha Jivan Prabhu, will you see him?
Yeah, I'll see him. Yeah.
We missed him. Tell him he cheated us. He said he was going to be part of the today, and he didn't come.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that, Prabhuji. Okay, so I think we should go ahead and stop then right now, unless anybody has anything else burning to say. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea. I just hope, we're just hoping we don't get any bombs on our heads or anything. Moldova is pretty safe, but we'll be traveling some in Ukraine. We'll be going through Dnipro, and some places there's been some shelling there. But it's not so. I don't think it's so dangerous. And moreover, we'll be with Radhanath Maharaj and with Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, so it'll be good. But I have no idea about internet connections or how things will go for next week. I want to keep continuing this. It's hard. We practically stopped our meeting in Kurukshetra series. I want to continue that. It's just been so hard while we travel. And then we also stopped temporarily stopped our Gambhira Kata, because Sunday is always a difficult day. Everybody always wants us to give class that day, but we're not forgetting it, and we want to continue. Okay, so thank you all so much. It's really nice to see everybody. And Leela Purushottam Prabhu, Balaram's appearance day, right? And check.
Yes, I'm happy. I just wanted to confirm it. So if you're confirming it, then perfect. I'm so happy.
Balaram right behind me. Krishna coming, right? Balaram's appearance day.
We are confirming, but I would like to discuss details, but not until we leave from here, because it's too mad now.
But we got here last night. They asked us to give class this morning here in Deborah's. We're leaving tomorrow. And we've just been traveling for like 3 weeks, and we're all just like, I don't want to get into details, but it's pretty scary. We're both like really, really exhausted. It's been really, really intense. So yeah, but Krishna Kun wants to talk with you some about that program. I'm worried about Mangala and Mataji. I heard, I didn't know until just recently that they were in a terrible accident when they got back.
It wasn't a terrible accident. It just destroyed the car. Nobody was harmed. Yeah, I mean,
did the insurance take care of it?
It's still in the procedure now. It's not fully solved yet. It might be that he will have to get a new car actually, but with some payment from insurance.
I feel terrible. I feel like we're to blame for that, because they drove so far to take us to Lithuania and come back. Krishna.
He never mentioned that, like something like that.
Are we going to see them in Balaram's appearance day?
He's really trying to have the mobility ready until that time. That's his like focus and prayer, that he wants to be here actually.
Yeah, I just spoke to Kalindi this morning. Like we just exchanged messages, and she said that they are fully hoping and planning on having a new car by the time of Balaram's appearance and meet us there.
Yeah,
they should just get a Vimana. They can fly it, they can drive it.
And that's of course that there are no accidents so much.
I'm trying to look for some Vimanas here in Czech, because it seems that the market in Slovakia is quite poor actually. Like we were speaking about certain cars that would be fitting their needs, and he just told me like there is no offer in Slovakia. There is like 1-2 cars in the whole Slovakia, and then I checked in Czech, and then there was so many offers. So probably I will try to help him with that.
Yeah, I own 2 cars in my life, and I haven't driven anything in over 30 years. In Jagannath Puri, I have a bicycle, and really good gas mileage, and I don't have to send Vraja or anything. I don't like cars. Up there, airports, shopping malls for me, but they're necessary.
Yeah, let's turn the garage into a library.
Lucky you. I always like taking away with the cars. Like I really like my Subaru.
Everybody, we're going to be opening our library in a few months. We're going to have a digital library online, and we want to have a meeting. Ideally, if we can, we want to invite the King of Puri and Radhanath Maharaj and some VIP persons to our ashram and have a physical opening. But we may just have like an online opening thing for the new website and that. But that's coming up, and that's a lot of this with Jai Gaur. He worked and converted that garage. And I remember him asking me, "Are you guys going to be here for a while?" He's doing all this remodeling and stuff, and it's like, I hope this lasts for a while. It's blessed. It's been a few years now. It looks like it'll be a few more. We just renewed our visa or our rental contract with the guy there. All right. So thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakti ki, Vancha Kalpadharvishcha, Kripa Sindhu Bheva Chapatitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Before I turn this off, you might want to do a screenshot of the 2 quotes Krishna Kun posted there before they disappear. You can have to do screenshots. I just did a screenshot, nice quotes. Except he doesn't say where it's from, but it's somewhere.
It's Bhagavad Gita,
Bhagavad Gita.
8th chapter and Bhagavad Gita introduction.
Okay. All right.